From South Carolina Public Radio, this is the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on October 14th, 2024 from South Carolina Public Radio Studios here in Columbia. And we are back with you now, fully engaged for the sprint to Election Day, folks. And with that, we want to invite you to our live lead taping on October 30th.
Snake alert.
Come in costume. We're not going to be in costume, but you can come in costume. We'll be doing it here live in studio in Columbia.
Snake alert.
We have an Eventbrite that you can find on southcarolinapublicradio.org/live lead, L-E-D-E. You know that. But I want you to go ahead and start getting that on your calendar. It's going to be our pre-election show. It will be free. We'll have some adult beverages. We'll have fellowship. Starting at 6:30, October 30th. Go to southcarolinapublicradio.org/live lead. And we will see you on October 30th here in Columbia. Rena, sweet baby Rena, may be there with her papa.
Yeah.
Even I don't know if she'll be there. So you think, what? Wow. Now I'll show up. On this episode of The Lead, we look at the poll worker shortage facing our state and some of the reasons behind the problem. Isaac Kramer, who is over the Charleston County Board of Voter Registration and Elections, talks to me about issues and challenges ahead of the November 5th election. Congressman Jim Clyburn discusses his concern about black men not turning out for Vice President Kamala Harris on Election Day, something former President Barack Obama mentioned last week in his first speech for Harris on the trail. And we have some economic news on inflation and the ongoing Boeing strike. The Lead loves hearing from you. Like I said, we are just about 20 days from Election Day, so we want to hear from you about your thoughts, your fears, what's going on with you ahead of Election Day. 803-563-7169. You do not need to tell us who you're voting for, your stances. We just want a little bit of a vibe check on how you're feeling about South Carolina, the country, the world, or what you're doing for Halloween. And hopefully that includes coming to our live taping. 803-563-7169. We are now 20 days away from Election Day as of October 15th. Voter registration was extended due to the hurricane, and now it is officially closed. That's it. Pencils down. See you next year. Early voting is set to open next Monday, October 21st, and run through Saturday, November 2nd. You can find out where those early voting locations are and who is on your ballot at scvotes.gov. Everything's right there. And remember, you must bring a government-issued photo ID with you to your polling location. At those locations, poll workers make our elections work. Plain and simple, folks. They are some of the unsung heroes of our democracy, and they're in short supply. I spoke with Isaac Kramer, who's over the Charleston County Board of Voter Registration and Elections, about this issue and others facing election workers in the state. Take a listen to my interview from September 30th with Isaac.
Well, first, poll workers are the bedrock of our elections. We're people-powered. We depend on them to run our polling places, and we're seeing in South Carolina just the same people who've served before are not returning. And that's for many different reasons. One, our poll workers are usually over the age of 70. So some may have aged out, but also with post-2020 election conspiracy theories and threats to election workers, I think some people are deciding not to be involved. And the pay is not that great across the state. The funds from the State Election Commission only cover $135, which most counties only do the state rate. Thankfully, in Charleston County, we do $250. So we need poll workers. We need people who want to serve their communities, people who want to ensure that we have free and fair elections, that elections are done with integrity. But we can't do that without the people who serve as poll workers.
So, Isaac, that being said, what happens if you don't have enough poll workers? I mean, are you at a critical point right now where the ability to put on the actual election is in jeopardy?
No, we definitely have time for recruiting. I mean, in Charleston, we need about 200 more poll workers in the next 5 weeks, and that's a very doable number. I will say this, that usually it's not a resource problem of election equipment. Usually if we have lines on election day, it's because we don't have enough people working the polling location. We have adequate equipment, and it's usually we may have 5 or 6 people inside working, and we might need 8 to 10. So it is a critical need that all of South Carolina election officials and officials across the country are seeing this upcoming election is just people that have normally worked have not come back, and we're relying on a new generation of poll workers to sign up.
When it comes to training, how long does that take to once you get someone to train them? And, how many days out before this election do you need to have that done by?
Training for our poll workers starts 30 days prior to the election, and it's about 2 to 3 hours, and you're paid for the training, and then you're paid for election day. And our workers will get hands-on training, and if you've been doing it for a long time, you can do a refresher online course. But we want to have all that squared away the week before the election. We're very confident that our poll workers will be prepared. They're given all the resources they need, and that they have a poll manager's handbook, which is like all the answers for them right then and there. They have it at the polling location, and they can contact us on election day.
Isaac, you're over the statewide organization that advocates for election workers. It's not just poll workers that are in need, but you guys also have had a lot of turnover statewide when it comes to directors in the county offices. How do you help fix this? I know you guys have been advocating for it, but are you getting any help at the state level when it comes to recruitment and retention at this point?
I think for election officials as the profession, my colleagues across the state, we have worked very closely together this past year in giving the resources they need from our organization for election officials, which is training and looking forward to. We're going to be providing a lot of resources for them. The state really focuses on the nuts and bolts, make sure we have what we need in terms of the knowledge of conducting elections. But the legislature can definitely help with this. As we go into a new session, one is maybe even doing a stipend for election directors, which was proposed by Representative Newton out of Lancaster County. Another one is protect election officials. It's really to ensure that if you're threatened or doxxed or harassed, there's criminal penalties to that. You can't just do something against an election official and there not be a penalty to that. And thirdly, we have too many special elections in South Carolina. There's an old saying that if it's a Tuesday, there's an election going on in the state. And that is just creating a burden on the election officials who have so many different deadlines and so many different things going on at the same point. We're event planners. Imagine having to host an event at every polling place, get the people there, get the voters there, ensure all the signage is there, all the things are tested and proofed. It's a lot. So when we go to a new session of special elections and having coordinated elections, only having 3 or 4 dates a year, will drive voter turnout up, decrease the burnout in election officials, and also huge cost savings to the state.
I also asked about non-citizens voting as well. You may remember that was something Attorney General Alan Wilson said his office and others are pressing the federal government for details on when it comes to unauthorized non-citizens on our voting rolls. Isaac said this when I asked him if he's ever seen any evidence of illegal voting in our state.
No, and this is kind of the thing that it's not just South Carolina, it's across the country. My colleagues in other states have always said, we ask for the data. We're always told there's going to be all these things that are going to be presented, and we never get the data. And then if we get the data, it's incorrect data. So I would say that there's protections in place at the state level to prevent non-citizen voting. And the state is doing their job in ensuring that any voters who may show up on the voter registration list are removed. And I know that's happened, and our state has done a great job in addressing those things. But remember, voting is a huge second step of that. So the first step, registering vote, but the second part is, do they actually vote? And as the data shows, even by the Heritage Foundation, that since early 2000s, it's been minuscule, if any, and that's tracking millions of votes over the last 20 years. So, our voters here in South Carolina, it is a question, but we can assure you that the state is doing everything given to them in their power to make sure that our rolls only contain citizens on our lists.
That was Isaac Kramer, director of the Charleston County Board of Voter Registration and Elections, talking with me on Zoom on September 30th. Isaac is also over the statewide association for election officials, so he knows a little bit about what he's talking about. Now, last week, former President Barack Obama was on the campaign trail for Vice President Kamala Harris. He spoke for some 45 minutes before a packed house in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he hammered Trump on ruining the economy he inherited from Obama as president, as well as making up stories about hurricane aid and other conspiracy theories that he said no one would tolerate if a coworker or business partner espoused in real life. In his first rally for Harris, Obama also called out men for any hesitation they may have over a woman president. This is something polling has shown in terms of a gender gap for Harris, with her leading with women and Trump with men. Here's Obama.
And yet, when Donald Trump lies or cheats or shows utter disregard for our Constitution, when he calls POWs losers or fellow citizens vermin, people make excuses for it. They think it's okay. They think, well, at least he's owning the libs. He's really sticking it to them. It's okay, as long as our side wins. And by the way, I'm sorry, gentlemen. I've noticed this especially with some men who seem to think Trump's behavior, the bullying and the putting people down, is a sign of strength. And I am here to tell you that is not what real strength is. It never has been. Real strength is about working hard and carrying a heavy load without complaining. Real strength is about taking responsibility for your actions and telling the truth even when it's inconvenient. Real strength is about helping people who need it and standing up for those who can't always stand up for themselves. That is what we should want for our daughters and for our sons, and that is what I want to see in a president of the United States of America.
This is something that has been covered throughout this election cycle. The headlines earlier this year said enthusiasm among black voters for President Joe Biden was soft. And then when Biden backed out of his second run at the end of July, enthusiasm for Harris skyrocketed among all Democrats. While we have always said black voters are not a monolith, with Harris at the top of the ticket, that still holds true. This has been heavily discussed in black media recently, and something that she will hit head-on this week with major interviews with personalities including Roland Martin and The Breakfast Club co-host Charlamagne tha God. CNN's Dana Bash asked South Carolina Democratic Congressman Jim Clyburn about the black male vote on State of the Union on Sunday.
I am concerned about black men staying home or voting for Trump, but my concerns don't tend to keep me from being energetic about this campaign, because I was in Michigan campaigning with Debbie last weekend. I thought our swing through Michigan was very, very effective. I met with black men. I met with black religious leaders. I met with black union leaders. And quite frankly, I think we had very frank and direct discussions. And I don't see and feel what I'm reading about in news reports. Yes, black men, like everybody else, want to know exactly what I can expect from Harris administration, and I've been very direct with them. And I've also contrasted that with what they can expect from a Trump administration. We will expect Project 2025 to be a full-blown policy in his administration. And what would that policy be? I described it on the first night of our national convention, and I've been describing it that way ever since. It will be Jim Crow 2.0. Now, you know, I'm the 9th African-American serving Congress from South Carolina. That means there were 8 before me. The problem is there were 95 years between number 8 and number 9. And the policies of that 95 years that kept us out of government, out of this economy, is called Jim Crow. And if you look at Project 2025, it will be Jim Crow 2.0. And I am amazed at the number of people who actually are interested in contrasting that. And I think that we had a lot of success up in Michigan being able to explain that.
So when When you were in Michigan, you said that first you started your answer by saying you are concerned. What did you hear that makes you concerned?
When people raise questions about what does she stand for, and I tend to ask them, don't tell me what you hear, tell me what you feel. What do you feel about her as opposed to what you experienced for 4 years under Trump? And I have yet to find one single person that can tell me one thing that they got out of the Trump administration, except, as a few of them said to me, well, we got a stimulus check. And then I said to them, don't you know that Congress appropriates money? And just because the president holds up that check until he can get his name on it, you say that you got it from him? When it was a Democratic-controlled House of Representatives and that passed that bill and made those checks available.
Harris is set to roll out a plan for black men, as was reported by Politico on Monday, saying in the coming days, Harris plans several campaign events and policy proposals designed to appeal to the group. She plans to announce 3 new policy proposals, three, including providing 1 million small business loans that are forgivable up to $20,000, training and mentorship programs that would help give black men a leg up into jumping into high-demand industries, and launching an initiative focused on health issues that disproportionately impact black men. Speaking of our congressional delegation, The Hill reports that Senator Tim Scott is seriously considering making a run to become chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee in 2026. 2 Senate GOP sources told The Hill that Scott started making calls to senators over the weekend about a possible bid to lead the Senate Republicans' campaign arm. The fundraising gig is pretty much thankless, but it is highly visible. And don't you think I'd let you out of here without some economic news, guys? Everyone's talking about the economy. What's the economy doing? Well, if you're working for Boeing, it's been a rough year. It's been a long, long year, including this most recent strike that has now passed into its first month as 30,000 union machinists continue their push for a new contract that includes higher wages at the aerospace giant's West Coast factories. Negotiations broke down last week. I'm not going to make any puns here. I'm not going to do it. I'm not. That's not what this podcast is about. I'm not going to do it. No, I'm going to keep going. CNBC reports that Boeing's unionized machinists are not receiving paychecks and lost their company-backed health insurance at the end of September. The company is losing $1 billion a month to the strike, per S&P Global Insights. Last month, white-collar employees started getting furloughed and hiring was frozen. On Friday, newly installed CEO Kelly Ortberg announced a 10% workforce cut, or about 17,000 jobs. This comes after a tumultuous year for the company, which builds the twin-aisle 787 Dreamliner here in North Charleston. That plant is not unionized. The company has faced intense regulatory and congressional scrutiny following production flaws and slowdowns on that 787 line, as well as with the troubled 737 MAX, including when a door panel blew out in midair in January. So Boeing woes continue. And inflation continues to cool, reaching a 3-year low in September, according to the Department of Labor. Those cooler fall temperatures. The Consumer Price Index rose to an annualized rate of 2.4% after rising to 2.5% in August. Core prices, which exclude volatile food and energy data, climbed to 3.3% over the previous 12 months, which is slightly above the 3.2% rise in August. These were both just slightly above economists' expectations. And that was the last CPI report before the election and comes on the heels of a resilient labor market and falling interest rates. The next Federal Open Market Committee meeting takes place from November 6th through the 7th. So regardless of how you feel about the election results, at least interest rates will dip again to soften the blow or enhance the moment of the election. However you feel. The Wall Street Journal reports also that the Social Security Administration separately said Thursday that Social Security benefits would rise 2.5% in 2025. That's the smallest cost of living adjustment in 4 years. That's the show of inflation coming down there, folks. Now, this increase is calculated using a different version of the September CPI. Welcome to the wind down section, our little break from the news. We are here with A.T. Shire, producer of the Lead podcast.
Yes,
A.T.,
thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you, Gavin. We're fresh off the heels of a uninspiring Eagles win. So
I texted you. I saw them playing the Browns. I was like, I need to text my buddy here.
2 weekends in a row, Gavin has texted me Sunday morning about sport. It's not right. It throws off the whole momentum of the day. The juju. If Joanna,
I'm trying to help
listening, the juju.
I'm trying to help you not spiral. So I'm like, maybe if I say a couple words, I could alter, Caitlin's juju with her clothes by creating my own by doing something that you don't expect, right?
Yeah, is it
working? It's
it threw
working.
me off. Yeah, the Queen's Gambit is working. Anyway, Gavin, throwing it back to COVID times. Anyway, Gavin, we have a call. Are you ready for the call?
Hold on, let me get my phone out.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, do I need a...
He has 9-1 dialed, folks. He's ready to press
I won
that last
away.
one.
Okay, do it. Just do it.
Hey there, fellas. This is correspondent Kevin. It's been a very long time since I called in. Still been listening, just been busy. Hurricane fared well, a lot better than others. We're very thankful and fortunate. Thoughts out to everyone that's not so fortunate. Been busy, welcomed a new correspondent to the family over the weekend, so now things are even busier, even more tired, but just wanted to check in, say hello for the fall. It's now spooky season, hint, hint, spooky season, hint, again, double hint, spooky season. But yeah, y'all be good. Hope all is going well, and talk to you later.
Correspondent Kevin, thanks for the check-in. Thanks for continuing to listen like so many of our wonderful listeners. And oh my God, a new correspondent joins the family.
Amazing, amazing.
So many babies listening to this podcast
We're
now.
a baby-forward pod, and I love your hints about spooky season. Yes, it's south
The
of spooky
spooky.
season. I've heard a lot of chatter about it being a great baby's first podcast, okay?
Check out South of Spooky if you have not heard it. It's our 2022 podcast. We are still working on
it's
another
so much work.
season.
So much work. I have a baby now.
Our creative process, people might think, oh, they do 2 podcasts a week. It has to be pretty easy. Well, this is just the news, folks. When it comes to our actual creative process, it's disgusting.
Every single episode of South of Spooky is equal to 1.5 seasons of Lead. Everybody knows that is podcast math. I don't make that up.
No.
This is mathematics, okay?
Guys.
That was discovered. We discovered math. Anyway,
Well,
Gavin,
then we had a huge falling out with Spotify, which we really can't even talk about.
I don't even want to get into that. Spotify, schmodify. Anyway, Gavin, this wasn't the only way that we've been called, talked to, spoken to. You've received
I
something, a
received a
correspondence.
dispatch from the open seas through my maritime connections.
Hold on, the boat horn's still playing. Okay, continue.
Through our maritime connections.
There we go.
That's right. I think we've heard from these folks before, and I can't remember, so I apologize, Abby, if that's the case, if you guys wrote before. But I got an email from Abby Morris out of Beaufort. She said, my husband and I are currently traveling on our sailboat. We are enjoying listening to the SC Lead and Garvin Jackson. I'm going to go ahead and she meant to say Gavin and team. I was introduced to the Lead by our 35-year-old son. Thanks to podcasts, never miss a show. Thanks for keeping us informed on the happenings in SC along with humor. Mm-hmm. And she's also a sustaining star donor, she mentioned.
Ooh.
So props for that. Definitely flex that if you're a donor. Let us know when you guys call or email.
Aye, Captain.
You can reach me at gjackson@scetv.org.
We would love to record a
You can
pod
email.
on your boat.
I want to record a pod on the boat.
We would love to do
Abby,
it on the boat.
I'm just throwing it out there now. I don't know where you are right now.
We will come to you.
I would love to do it on a boat.
Yes.
Like, not even in the dock, but like on the sea.
Yeah, we don't
as long
need-
as we can see the coast.
It's just you, your husband, and your son. That's fine. It doesn't matter.
It'd be so much fun.
It would be great. We would love
legally, Now, legally, there's going to be a couple
that.
some red tape.
He's a maritime lawyer. We all know that.
We might seize your ship.
Yeah.
though.
If
I'm gonna
we
go
go
ahead-
into international waters, Gavin and I
might
are technically
commit light
pirates.
piracy.
We are pirates, okay?
But hey, we're going to need first mates. We don't even know how to steer the boat. So
We
we're going
have
to go to
positions.
enlist you.
We have positions for you. We've
Positions
thought about
are
it.
available.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
Oh, that would be a blast. Are you kidding
How
me?
many
That would be so much
podcasts can
fun.
do that? Yeah, so let us know, Abby.
yes.
We'll come down to Beaufort, even if we're just on the dock.
We'll meet you on a pier somewhere. We don't care. We'll hop. We'll jump.
on
okay?
a sailboat.
We'll take a dinghy.
We'll do that after, We'll do that after the election. That'd be kind of fun. Might be a little chilly. Sweater weather.
We're gonna need a little break from a break so much from the news that we take a break from dry land. Okay?
Terra firma,
if you will. Yeah, we need to get off. We need to the old briny vast sea.
And then fully lean into maritime law in my legal career.
Yeah, Gavin, he's got a big old list of stuff. It's a lot of scary names. You don't want to be on the list. But what?
It's a lot of Latin.
On top of it, it is boats. If you think this guy loves
planes
and transportation,
you got another thing coming when he sees a boat.
Infrastructure, you got to see this guy on a boat. It's a freak. He's swabbing all the decks, poop deck and otherwise. I mean, he's swabbing. He's swabbing this guy. He swashbuckles.
Guys.
He has his own crow's nest at home. He's ready to put it on your boat.
Something about the movie Hook just really
it changed you. It changed
you. And he's a complicated character.
Hey, Hook gets a bad
Robin,
rap.
Rufio, they all say this and that.
Actually, the bad guys. You know who the hero is? The Samwise Gamgee, the whole thing? Shmee. I'm a big Shmee guy. I'm a big Shmee guy.
And Glenn Close was in the movie too, and she was put in the boo box, remember?
Yep, I remember.
Box. Spoiler. But yes, Hook, not a bad guy. Robin Hood.
Crocodiles on the side of the Lost Boys.
Correct.
Okay? This is
someone without
here.
law, there is no order. And that is what Hook was trying to implement.
See how they waste food. You see how they waste food. Lost Boys.
He's creating jobs. He's creating stability,
infrastructure, order.
He's supporting multiple economies, both on land and sea. So I don't want to hear it.
He's a good guy. I think we should end it on that.
Peter grew up. Never grow up, guys.
You know who didn't quit? Hook.
Thank
Shmee.
you.
Okay.
Shmee.
With that, Shmee.
Shmee.
With that, we're getting the hook. We're getting the wind up.
Okay.
We're getting the wind up sign.
Bring in the hook, guys.
Go ahead.
That's right, folks. Give us a shout like correspondent Kevin did. And again, congratulations to you and your family. You can give us a shout at 803-563-7169. You can also listen to South of Spooky wherever you find podcasts, including The Lead. It will get you through the spooky season. I swear, it's a good time. A lot of people listen over and over because there's no new episodes. But you can also leave us a review wherever you find podcasts about how much you love the show. And if you don't, well, you don't have to leave a review. And you want to stay up to date with the latest news, go to scetv.org or southcarolinapublicradio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers. The South Carolina Lede is a production of South Carolina Public Radio. Our producer is A.T. Shire. Amy Crouch is our supervising producer. Sean Birch is our executive producer. This podcast is produced with support from PRX and is made possible in part by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, as well as listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina, like Abby Morris. For the South Carolina Lead, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. You sound like the guy who's doing the celebrity's house on MTV.
Yeah. Lifestyles of the rich and famous.
The most expensive music videos ever filmed.
Lux, 1 bottle of Dom Perrier. Try 1,000.
It's spot on.